Hello, Anna. I'm so delighted to see you there.
Hi, how are you, Anna? Anna and
Oh,
Anna.
yeah, Anna and Anna, and with one in both of us, which
Yes.
is which is quite a challenge in the countries that we live at the moment.
Yes.
Anna and I met at a Joe Dispenza event, and Joe Dispenza's what it was a 1 week. No, it was a 3 day, wasn't it? The first time it was a
No,
3 day.
the week long, the week
It was a
long.
week long directly. Oh my God, we've got to so
Yeah.
many that we're getting.
Yeah, we've been to a few, yes.
It was a week long in Brighton in November 2018, and a lot of things have happened ever since. The reason why I'm saying we met there is because that puts us a little bit into perspective that we are into this space of making ourselves a bit better, going to the next level, the next level, the next level. And now Anna has agreed very kindly to share her experiences of empowerment with us, for which I'm very grateful, and all of our audience is very grateful. I'm sure of that. So with you, Anna.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I'll try to be as clear as and entertaining as I can. So I would say my life has been quite colorful, I think. It used to be very boring. That's what I used to think. But I can say that from a very early age, when I was a little girl, I always had this idea that I could change my life, as probably many people in their past, they've been bullied, maybe life or parents were not as open, or there were adults just being, nasty or whatever. And I just continued to fantasize in my head, I can be a princess, I can be a queen. Even if people kind of laugh at me, I was very imaginative. I would have drawings, how create my own characters and just draw the type of life I would like to have. I was always a very keen reader. So when I read stories and books, basically I was able to see these things in my head, which kind of made me probably from very early age want to see the world, but I always had this idea that, we can be something else, we can change even kind of the way we look. That's kind of how I felt at the time. I felt there were circumstances that were like, let's say, limiting me, but I always thought I would find a way to break those. So yeah, from a very early age, I'm from Mexico, middle class. So I went to private school. So you could say, I have a normal life. I got a nice education. My dad used to work really hard to give us, whatever we needed. And also with that came obviously a lot of things about money. For example, like not, let's say I'm not a millionaire, or kind of not, you shouldn't want that because, I'm working all this hard, so I can give you what I can give you. So I always had these things, but in my notebooks and my little stories, I would, have these ladies or people that would have like lots of cars, and so I kind of in a way kind of through my writing or through my drawing I would kind of feel, but I, I can't complain. I had toys, I had all the Barbies that were available in the market. My dad gave us, I went to a very expensive private university, so my dad made everything possible for me to get the things I wanted. And in a way I started realizing that my wanting, my desires were really strong, and somehow I got them. So, for example, my dad talking about his, let's say, her financial limitations. So I was offered a scholarship on University A, and it seemed to be like a nice university, but I had this idea I wanted to go to this other one. So just imagine like Oxford or Cambridge, it's not something that probably you'll be able to pay. But I was keen on having that. I think at the time it was more affordable than probably what is today. So my dad agreed to get me to that university. I'm the eldest of 3 sisters. So the other 2, the second one didn't go to university. She thought my dad had already spent too much, sending me to university. She never spoke about what she wanted or whatever. She just thought she would do probably best not to ask for going to university, because probably my dad had already paid too much sending me to university. And my youngest sister went to a university that was much more affordable. And so I thought, this is kind of when something started, like, oh, you are the lucky one, but I thought, my dad could have said no, and I could have done the tantrum of the world or whatever. But still I got through the university, 5 years of university, where my dad didn't ask for any loans or anything to pay, because there were obviously, I'm so sorry.
Isabella Valentine would like to talk to Anna.
I'm sorry, I have probably you have to edit this. Probably you have to edit this, just bear with me. So going back to that, so I probably, my dad could have said no, and me, and I wouldn't have done. But he agreed. I had good degrees at school. I really enjoyed it. It was 5 years of studying a career, so it wasn't like a 3-year thing. So it was 5 years. So I studied 10 semesters in that university. That was like very posh, full with all these people, from high society. Children of politicians, So I would just kind of be like, oh, I'm kind of part of them, but I'm not part of them. So obviously with me, there were a lot of other like middle class people too. So yeah, my sisters, and I always wonder, why didn't you ask, my dad, if he could send you to A or B? No, we just assumed, you went to the nice university, so therefore there's no more probably wealth to get us there. And my dad never said anything about this.
Wow. So what I could see there, Anna, is that you did apply the ask and it is given. You asked for it, and you didn't have.
I had this question like, I'm going there. There. So my dad could have said, oh, it's right. I'm going there. And somehow he said, okay, well, we'll get you there.
Yeah. Wow. What a difference in the outcome of you and your sisters, even though you all were living in the same household and you all had the same dad and everything was the same, but you were completely focused on what you wanted and you asked for it. I mean, and he could have said no, and I'm sure you would have been okay with it. But he said yes, and your sisters just didn't take that extra step. They just assumed, and they decided to leave small. So it was the decision. They decided to leave small.
Yeah, and also I think it was something about, feeling a passion for what you wanted to do. So I had this dream about going to university. So I had, mixed ideas of, what should I study? I wanted to be a doctor. But then I limit myself because I thought, okay, Dad is already paying for this university. But if I choose medicine, he's going to be paying much more. So I thought, okay, no, let's give Dad a break. So instead of that, I thought, let's study communications, like something like totally different. But I thought, because I had been, creative, I was writing. So I thought maybe that's the best thing to do. Yeah, so so I was always very passionate, I enjoyed the classes, I blah blah, and my sisters never had that passion for school. They were very intelligent, they got straight A's like I did, but I'm not sure they were that competitive. I felt I was always a bit like I wanted to be the top one, the best, sometimes it was difficult, sometimes, you know, I had to probably studied a lot to understand certain subjects, but I always find a passion on what I did. I didn't feel that my sisters were that passionate about it. They probably would find other things more entertaining or more fulfilling, probably out of school, rather than the you know, the fact of studying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I got into this school. Well, when I chose this career, my dad said, like, really, you should be kind of studying, you know, why don't you become an accountant? Why don't you become a solicitor? Why don't you become, you know, business management? Those are the careers that will give you, you know, that allow you to be independent and, you know, make a life of your own. And I was just, no, you know, I'm going to be fine. And this career that I studied, all, you know, it was full of people wanting to get on TV, you know, working for a newspaper or radio or advertising, blah, blah, blah. So there were a lot of people and probably very little positions, a small number of positions available.
Mm-hmm.
But it never occurred to me that I would struggle. I just thought I'd just follow, you know, what I like. And I can say that I probably from, you know, from all the people that study this career and classmates, etc., I was always lucky to be working in some area of what I studied. Other people have to become salespeople or other things, you know, basically probably become their own entrepreneurs because they couldn't find a position that was for this type of career. So
well, what I can see here, Anna, if I got it right, is that ever since you were a girl, you thought of yourself as limitless, and you were holding these visions in your head of what you wanted, whatever story it was that you were telling yourself. The stories that you were telling yourself were limitless. Nothing was getting on the way. And so when you say there, all these people were not so lucky because they couldn't find this, and they were salespeople, and maybe the image that they have in their minds, maybe the story that we're telling themselves was, there are not enough out there for me. I will never find, I'm just guessing, but maybe the pictures in their minds were not as vivid as yours. Would that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I realized that sometimes these big dreams I had could be probably criticized by others, my family first.
Of course.
So when I probably didn't, or let's say sabotage myself, had to do with some of these you know, ideas, or, you know, or you're not good enough, or you're not rich enough, or you're not wealthy enough, or what are you doing kind of, you know, hanging out with these people who are so rich, you know, you are going to be jealous of them, you know, you'll never be able to have any of their things.
Yeah, you
blah,
don't
blah.
belong. You don't belong there.
Exactly. But I always try kind of to, you know, work out those, let's say, things. Yeah, I had like negative things. Other things were pulling me down. And for some reason, you know, probably when I was still studying this career, my mom, who had been kind of obviously very Catholic, you know, it's all about God and blah, blah, going to church. At some point, she got invited to go to these little like get-togethers where people were reading and teaching about metaphysics.
Mm-hmm.
So these were kind of the, you know, the Hermetic principles, you know, like basically thoughts are things, all of this. So basically, we went with her, me and I think my other sister, that big sister. So in these little classes, we start studying, you know, Course in Miracles, and all these things. And I was just like, wow. I thought like, maybe because my love life have always been kind of my Achilles heel, if you can call it, and also my self-image. You know, I was very kind of insecure around it. I was always very confident about my intelligence for some reason. I thought, yeah, if it's anything to do with the head or you know, I can, I can, let's say, perform, but I didn't feel pretty enough, or you know, whatever. So when I was exposed to this knowledge, I thought, because I used to feel really depressed about this thing about not having a boyfriend, you know, or you know, the guy I fancied kind of end up kind of, you know, making jokes about me, whatever. I thought, you know, maybe I can just start changing those feelings, those negative emotions, and start kind of meditating and thinking, okay, if it's not now, maybe it will be in the future. I start kind of being exposed to the idea of past lives and all of these things that at the time made a lot of sense to me, although I had been quite, let's say, more factual person. So that, I think, started a journey where I realized then that those negative emotions, because I could get really, really down, kind of, I was able to manage them better. I was able to, even if I got upset with someone, etc., I was able to get unstuck easier. And at some point, you know, I started kind of this interest in me all about, you know, the ascended masters and all these things. And I thought, you know, I don't know where can this get me? And, you know, funny enough, you know, later, you know, in Mexico, we used to have these very bad, you know, financial times. You know, every time a president left their term, it was like the country was bankrupt again and again and again.
Wow.
So there was a very bad kind of like credit crunch in the mid-90s, or around the mid-90s. And actually, I used to have a credit card that, you know, my dad, you know, by this time I was still living with my dad. My dad, you know, gave me. So basically, all the interest, you know, make this credit card like. So my dad, you know, loving enough, he paid off that debt. But basically, I didn't have a job because, you know, basically all the companies, the first thing they used to do was cut marketing, communications, all of these things. So that's kind of, it was a period, not too different from this. So I couldn't go out because I didn't have any money, or not even to go for a coffee. So I had kind of to spend a lot of time indoors, just watching TV and just doing nothing and feeling sorry about myself, or for myself. And then my sister, my mid-sister, and I think we started watching this American guy on TV talking about, you know, energy, and that you can change your reality, and, you know, you can clean your aura, that he could give you, you know, readings and could teach. And I was thinking, oh my God, that's amazing. And I'm totally broke. I don't have a dime. So the first thing that happened, I think my sister, she was working, and she went and I think had an amazing one-to-one session, and, you know, she was told about her past lives, whatever. And I think someone is knocking at the door. Can I take that? So we heard about this guy. So my sister went and had an appointment. Of course, you can imagine, like everybody, he was in national TV. So you can imagine how many people wanted to personal appointment with him, a reading, a healing. He was going to be teaching. So my sister, the mid one, she had a job at the time, so she said, so I'll go for it. So I was thinking, oh my God, like, how am I going to get this? So then a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, he said, I'm going to give you an appointment with this guy as your birthday present. It wasn't my birthday, but I said, I'm going to bring forward your birthday, and I'll pay for it.
Wow.
So I went, oh my God. So I went there. So obviously it was amazing. And I was like, oh my God. And I was thinking, how am I going to do this? And then I can't remember how it happened. But later, you know, obviously he was American. He didn't speak Spanish. So at some point, someone was helping him to to translate or to interpret while he was doing the readings. So I think I told the owner that was, you know, basically managing this appointment. I said, look, if you ever need help, or she said, oh, you didn't need any translation, you're very good at English, whatever. And I said, yeah, I mean, if you need me to help, you know, I'm happy to do that. I thought, like, I'm not working, you know, what the hell. So then later they did say, okay, you know, we're quite busy. Could you help us? So I said, no pay. I didn't mind. You know, I thought I'll donate my time. So yeah, I started doing these readings with this guy, and you know, it was hilarious. Some people, there were even like some kind of celebrities going into these appointments, and you know, it was quite nice. And at some point, you know, I didn't have any money, but I was given, I think he gave this to me. He said, yeah, you can come to the healing seminar. So it was like a Saturday and Sunday. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have any money, but he gave it to me. And later he was doing this amazing program. He called it the Clairvoyant program. So basically it was going to be a series of 12 seminars to help you develop your intuition and abilities. So I thought, oh my God, like I'd really love to do this, but obviously I don't have any money. But I thought, yeah, and he told me, don't worry about it. So then, you know, I became his interpreter. And, you know, this obviously turned into like a 3-year, very interesting journey where obviously I was practicing a lot of, you know, meditation techniques, healings, blah, blah, blah. I also got to see the dark side and the pride and the, you know, how many people that are on TV and appear to be very spiritual weren't. It was all about, you know, many people were just sad.
The faker bakers.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a bit disappointing, you know, in a way. I mean, at the end of the day, I thought I was doing that, and my main goal, which was the most hilarious one, my main goal in all these studies was like, I want to have a relationship. So this guy kind of, obviously he used to sometimes be a bit not very nice to me. Every time I was like making a tantrum or having a tantrum, he would say, don't worry, Anna, one day you'll have a relationship. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to kill you, you know? So I was like disappointed that I was working so hard in this, you know, meditation and whatever, and nothing was happening. But I didn't know that you had to let go, you know? I was really like, imagine training myself in the gym, but not letting like, and then inviting other people to, or my friends to these workshops. And all of a sudden, wow, they would manifest a total different life. And I was, what? Are you kidding me? I'm meditating 18 hours a day and nothing is happening. How come? That's why the guy would say, don't worry, Anna, one day you'll have a relationship. And I was just like fuming. So anyhow.
maybe you were so focused on the fact that I don't have a relationship. I want a relationship, that there was no space for anything, because your fear is the energy that was going out into the blue nowhere. The blueprint was of fear. I'm not having. It's like, I'm not having. And that was maybe what you were projecting. Could that make sense?
Yeah. I think that's very, very likely. You know, I felt a bit disappointed. I mean, I did have like amazing experiences, you know, energy wise, you know, healing wise. I actually, at the time, I remember my parents were big fans of the X-Files TV series. So they were recommending me, oh, Jana, you should watch it. It's really good. It's up your street, you know, that kind of thing you like. But I thought, I don't need to watch the X-Files. I live the X-Files. So basically we would go to houses that were supposedly haunted, and this guy would be cleaning them. And I was, oh my God, I'm here. How exciting. So yeah, it was very exciting at the time. And then obviously things came to an end. You know, I didn't realize there were so many people that, you know, wanting to be in my position. So many people thought that because I was so close to this guy, that, or we were in a relationship when he was like 20 years older than me, and I saw him more like a father. So there was a lot of jealousy, let's say. People wanted to be next to the teacher. It's like if you were working with Dr. Joe. People would say, oh, I wish I was Hannah, you know, maybe she's getting like a special tuition from the teacher, the master, you know. And that's when I realized that people get really like, oh, the teacher, the master, when
the idol, oh, as if an idol were going to fix anything.
Exactly. And, you know, that obviously meant that we had to go our separate ways. And, you know, I was disappointed at the time. So I thought, I'm not going to do any of this energy work anymore. I should just be, you know, like around this time, I had a friend of mine that, you know, we had been very close. We had kind of very, very similar path. The same thing with the university, you know, very, very similar things. And then one day she told me that she had decided that she was going on therapy, you know, psychotherapy. And I was like, what? You don't need psychotherapy, you know, like, you know, you don't need it. And she said, no, Anna, you know, I have come to a point in my life where, you know, whatever I'm trying to do is not happening. So, you know, I'm ready kind of just to go and speak to a psychologist or psychiatrist and, you know, and talk through, you know, what's going on. And so I thought at the time,
she was feeling stuck. She was feeling stuck and asked for help, which makes sense. If we're stuck, let's ask for help. Whatever it is.
And I thought, that's ridiculous. You don't need it, you know. And I started, you know, seeing later on, I don't know, months passed, and I saw some of the areas in her life that start like to unblock. So the relationship one, I think she moved out of her house, out of the parents, whatever, and she started becoming independent. And I thought, you know, I felt like, oh, but, you know, I still was like not ready for that type of thing. So when I was kind of, it came a point where, although I was in a new job, and then kind of, I started kind of having real, I don't know, I would say probably I end up having like, I'm not going to say a breakdown, but I felt that my life was collapsing everywhere. So obviously the relationship had never worked, okay? That was a fact. The kind of self-love, you know, wanting to look amazing kind of didn't work out either. So the only thing I could hang on to was my work, my job. So then for some reason I was not getting there, you know, and the more stressed I got, you know, I couldn't function, I couldn't think clearly. I was just, so there were redundancies. I said there were still kind of troubled times, you know, with the economy. So there were redundancies. So at some point, my mom said, you know, I have this friend and she has a very nice therapist. Would you like to see her? And I said, yes, because the only condition I put was, if I'm going to get therapy, I want to see a practitioner that is open to things. That if I say I had a dream, he's not going to say, come on, you know, get real. If I said I went to my astrologer, they're not going to say you're crazy. So I wanted someone that was open to all these spiritual topics. So they said, yeah, you know, that this woman is perfect. So I started kind of to wait for an appointment, and nothing happened. And I was out of the job, and then I got the appointment. So I think kind of my life really started to, I think, have a change there, because when I went to see her, she asked me, so how are things? Yeah, I said, I'm fine. So how do you get on with mom and dad? Yeah, fine. So blah, blah, blah. How is it? Fine. So she said, if you're going to give me this crap, you know, you're going to tell me that everything is fine, you can just go. You know, you stop kind of telling that to yourself, because obviously it's not the case. So I thought, okay, like I used to have this facade, like this mask saying, oh yeah, I'm always fine, I'm always strong, etc. So I started to be a bit more honest about maybe the things that were inside. And she told me, look, if you want to make a change, imagine that this room is full of poo, full of crap. So until you clean all that crap, then you'll be able probably to see beyond it and create something different.
And
So
fill it up with something that smells nice. Yeah.
So obviously I have a lot of crap that I didn't even dare looking at.
Interesting.
So with this lady, and she used obviously a variety of things from EFT, a lot of obviously things that people who practice this more alternative therapy use. So she told me to start looking at the small changes, doesn't matter how small, and be thankful and grateful for them. So when we start kind of looking at this stuff, there were small changes, and I would go, okay, well, I'm very thankful this is happening. And so I start seeing changes almost right away. And I guess the more I feel grateful about them, at some point, these same people that made me redundant, and my boss that I thought she didn't like me at all, she had recommended me for a job translating, this catalog for a big IT company as a freelance. And they said, we know you speak English. I spoke to them. So are you happy to do this? And obviously that gave me a lot of money. I was able to work on this while looking for another job. But I was more interested about healing my mind. I had probably reached a point where I couldn't go on the way I was going. So I start seeing kind of changes, in my outlook of life, in probably how I saw myself, and even the relationship thing. So,
okay, can we summarize that, Anna, so far, just to make sure that I'm not losing anything? Mm-hmm. At some point you looked inside. No, at some point you felt that something was not working and you didn't dare to look inside, but then you were brave enough.
Yes.
You got the power to look inside yourself with honesty, rather than trying to fool yourself. Oh, this is fine. No, you looked inside with honesty, which is very, very powerful. You asked for help because you couldn't find
everything falls apart.
Yeah, you asked for help. This woman, this lady that helped you, she told you about small changes. Take action, small changes, and be grateful. Gratitude, big one. I've written it here with big letters because gratitude is a massive thing. And you're saying as well that you started observing the changes nearly right away. So that tells me that you were looking at things from a different vantage point, from a different perspective. Yeah, rather than being the victim, you were getting in charge of your life, and then changes started to happen. Is that, do you think that summarizes the point?
Yeah, definitely.
This is so powerful, and so applicable. Anyone can say, I can do that. I can find somebody who helps me if I cannot do it myself, or I can find a book. I can do something. I can take small steps and be grateful for them, and look at them and say, I'm grateful for that, and that I'm different now, and things are happening. That's very straightforward to apply for anyone out there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think kind of probably the key for me was becoming humble. I have always been I always had a big head. So if we just go back with what I've been saying, I said, maybe I didn't feel as the best looking, maybe I didn't feel like I was the richest, or I always felt I was the smartest person in the world. So when I had to be brought to my knees, basically when I had no relationship, blah, blah, and then no job, for me that was, like
no money, no money,
I just felt, what the hell is going on? I've been doing the work, I've been meditating, I've been thinking positive. Obviously, there was a dark or a shadow on myself that I hadn't realized, and probably was all my negative emotions, memories, programming
What
That,
about have you ever considered that those were the lessons that you came to learn? You didn't need to learn anything about intellectual abilities or about studies because
yes,
for you that was easy. But then maybe what you had to learn was about money and relationships. Maybe.
Yeah, perfect. I would say probably yes, because it was very interesting because this situation about the relationships, I'm going to make a parenthesis here. The situation on the relationships, my mom and dad were married, until my mom passed away. It seemed like a nice relationship, or let's say like a traditional marriage. They didn't argue. You know, uh, for a reason, it was like sisters and I didn't have like a example on how to build a relationship. It's strange. Even my mom used to say, "How come, Anna, you and your sisters don't have any boyfriends?" I'm just baffled. She said, like, I used to have like, I don't know, she was kind of going out with boyfriends since, whatever, and she was a teenager. How come you and your sisters don't? Obviously, there's the let's say the influence of other adults that obviously give us other programming. So probably my mom didn't have. Um, that gave us very, I'm not going to get into detail, but it gave us very bad kind of negative, fearful, guilt, all that crap. But what I felt was that, up to this point where I started the therapy, it was almost like in my house, time had never passed. This is with my parents and my sisters. We all live in the same house. So by this time, I'm already 30, okay? So it seemed like the time had frozen. So life was going outside for everybody else. They grew up, they got married, they got lives, they got jobs. And here, my sisters, my dad, my mom, and me were in this frozen time. And I used to tell my therapist, imagine this is like being inside jello or gelatin, that you cannot move, and this was the energy where I had to break from, to in order to survive or in order to create a new life.
Yeah.
Thanks to that therapy, as I said, I cherish the little details as she asked me. She asked me to write them down. She asked me to share with her in every session, whatever. I used to go to our sessions at 7 in the morning because she didn't have any other time. So I was really committed, going 7 in the morning on a Saturday or whatever it was, So I was there, and immediately I got another job, and I thought, look, it doesn't matter if the salary is great or not. Let's just kind of get this job, hold the job, because I had become almost like having panic attacks, at before in my last job. So yeah, this was a very interesting journey. So I remember my therapist telling me, just imagine like, okay, if they don't like your job and they decide to fire you, what's going to happen? Are you going to die? No. Stop kind of threat, and maybe you can do well, and that's okay, so don't fear like staying or leaving. So yeah, things start happening, all of a sudden I start doing other things. I had ideas about moving out of my house, and obviously that started kind of creating some waves, big waves with mom and dad. But I was like, I'll start kind of looking at apartments and see if maybe one day I can afford this, So with the idea, and I start dating people, and I start making amazing things, I remember.
Everything was new for you. You were starting to step out and creating your life rather than following the path that they were, I don't know, setting there for you to follow because that was safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I managed kind of to start dating people, kind of, if not on relationship, but it started happening. So I thought, wow, this is really something, you know, hasn't happened for the previous years, and I couldn't understand why, but you know, things start happening. So I was happy with that. Just
Also,
kind
the
of,
fact, I'm thinking, and sorry for the interruption, that if your mother was saying, I don't understand why you girls are not dating anybody, that was a self-fulfilling prophecy. If she was telling 3 girls, I can't understand why you're not dating anybody, that went into your subconscious. We are not dating anybody.
mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
that's what she was creating. I'm sure she didn't mean it, but it
No,
was
no.
happening. It was happening.
I think obviously she was surprised because obviously, yeah, it seemed like something wasn't right. You know, when I think about it, you know, and probably this was her only way of just saying, stating what is. And basically we were saying, oh, even our mom tells us that we are a bit crap because we don't know how to do this. But honestly, I mean, yeah, my sisters had relationships here and there, but they were very sporadic and not, but did not become like how can I,
Soulmates.
yeah, exactly. So we all had probably people that ask us out or whatever, but we didn't actually have a relationship. So that was a big thing for me. So when I was young as well, when I used to read and love the reading, you know, I was a big fan of, you know, Agatha Christie was kind of my hero. So I wanted to write stories like her. I wanted to know the mystery and the crime. And so I even wrote my stories. So they were set in England, whatever, you know. So the funny thing is, you know, when I didn't want hot chili, you know, my dad would set the table and would say, Anna, do you want some jalapenos? And I would say, or some chili. And I say, no, thanks. No, I don't want any chili. He used to say, what do you think you are? Do you think you're English or what? Or British or what? And I felt like, okay, but that is a very funny thing, you know, later on. So obviously, I always kind of fantasize about England and you know all these things. And for some reason, the people I started dating were British. You know, in Mexico, sometimes traveling, whatever.
Interesting.
In my head, I thought, let me just open my mind because I've been trying my own, let's say, my own fellow Mexicans, and maybe we are sharing too many beliefs, or I don't know. And I thought, let's just open and date other type of people with different beliefs, different backgrounds. And you know, at some point, I decided that you know I just got along with them. That was fine. So one of them, I started having this relationship, and immediately my mom started giving me a hard time. Like, oh, how do you know he's single? Maybe he's married and he's fooling you around. So all this jealousy, all of a sudden, all this controlling, you know, came up all of a sudden. And I just said, you know, just chill out, you know. She could see that I was so happy. Obviously, I was like over the moon at the time, you know. I was really enjoying myself. And at some point, this guy that he couldn't believe how come I couldn't, you know, spend the night with him, and I had to go back to my parents because how could my parents see that I was not spending the night in my own house? He couldn't understand that, and obviously I see that it was absolutely ridiculous what I was doing. But because
the Catholic Guild there, the
but
Catholic
because
Guild.
it wasn't my house, because my dad would say, "This is my house.
Exactly, my rules.
These are my rules. So you come here or else." So at some point he said, maybe we should live together. And I thought it was very early on the relationship, well, probably 2 months, 3 months. And I one day I had, you know, a lunch with my mother, and I wanted to share this with her as a possibility. So first of all, she was relieved that I didn't tell her that I was pregnant. That was her biggest
concern. Yeah.
That was sort of big, yeah. And I said, look, there is this possibility that we might go and live together. But I said, don't fear it, because we might not kind of even, move on with this relationship. Who knows? Who knows the future? So after that, unfortunately, my mom said, yeah, great, I'm happy for you. And then obviously she felt really ill. She was diabetic, her blood pressure, went through the roof, and she became blind like that. And obviously from that, there was a lot of sorrow, a lot of guilt. I wanted to take comfort with my boyfriend at the time, and my boyfriend said, look, I do not want to discuss your family life. I just want this to be about you and me. And I thought, wow, wow. So, okay, so obviously the relationship didn't progress. And I knew at the time that my mom was not going to live with that situation, that she was not going to accept the fact that she had become blind. It was a horrible time. I can say that my sisters were the ones kind of, managing, bless them, and my dad, the situation, while I was working probably 16 hours a day just not to deal with this. And yeah, eventually my mom passed away not too long after that. And obviously we were all very sad, very shaken. And I thought, look, I'll just stay for a little while and then I'll just move out, which eventually happened. And, at this stage, probably I had already probably gave up the idea of a relationship. I thought, look, if I have someone to spend some time, that's fine. It didn't become, it wasn't a priority anymore.
You let it go. You let it go at this point.
And yeah, so I met someone that, started messaging me once I had moved out. He was telling me, look, I live in England. I know that you're looking for an Englishman in Mexico, but maybe we can be friends. And I said, okay, well, because I don't want anything long distance. And yeah, we started kind of speaking on Skype. And, all of a sudden he told me, I'd like to meet you in person. So he came. And I took him around Mexico, Mexico City, blah blah blah. So he was very cute, blah blah. So I thought this one is going to be just a little like holiday thing. And 2 weeks, 2 weeks on, he proposed. So I thought, wow. But the funny thing is that I felt so comfortable with him, and I thought, yeah. I know it sounds crazy, totally crazy. It didn't even make sense in my head. Like, how come I'm just like, yeah, let's do this?
Because you knew it was right, didn't you? You knew it inside.
Yeah, I mean, many people said, oh, because I found him so attractive. Yeah, but my main emotion was that I felt like I could be myself with him.
Beautiful.
With everybody else, I felt that they didn't accept me. I needed to put this mask. I needed to be like all cheerful. I felt very anxious, to be honest. And with him was different. So yeah, like 6 months later, we got married, and then we moved to England. So I was again, reinventing myself, having in the very unknown, because. He didn't speak Spanish, so although he said we can stay in Mexico, obviously, if he didn't speak Spanish, what kind of job was he going to have? So I thought, I'll just give up everything I have. But by this time, from kind of having no job or whatever, I was already a director, so I had, progress in my career immensely. It was never a problem anymore. And I thought, if this is to create a family, I'm willing to give up all this job and career. We did. We moved here, and I thought, I'm going to be working on a fast food place, but it's okay. I thought it's okay if it's for a family. No, but I managed to get a job and then start progressing almost kind of from the ground up again, kind of to the similar level that I had in Mexico, kind of probably in a couple of years. It didn't take me long. And yeah, it was very nice. Unfortunately, there was a situation where we couldn't have children. He had obviously, I cannot even tell you how many tests we did, how many got lost. Appointments where we were supposed to have about this, about fertility, whatever, where I saw the wrong date, for God's sake, So it was clear that, it wasn't meant to happen. And no.
Yeah.
And then my husband kind of got really ill, and we didn't know what he had. I thought I was losing him, and then he kind of, had a surgery, kind of recovered, sort of, and then 2 or 3 years later, he was diagnosed with cancer. And a cancer that was very strange and that had no cure. So basically, they gave him the voodoo course. And from that moment, obviously, it became obviously a very hard time because he wasn't kind of very open to other things, but he was in a state of terror, anger, denial that, well, I cannot describe. Eventually, obviously, you could have said that this could have pushed me back into spirituality, but in a way, I just numbed myself by working. So I thought, if I'm going to work, like, I'll be okay. Like that kind of took my mind off things. So I was prescribed some antidepressants, etc. So I kind of managed myself a bit like that until the time came. I knew it was going to come. Probably from the first moment he was ill, I thought that this was going to be the scenario, but it took about probably 4 or 5 years to actually happen. And so I was left again with, the life that I had created, like, what was I going to do, going forward. So I try kind of to look for, people who bring you messages from beyond, like these guys that do these presentations and they start speaking, okay, who's Anna, but obviously I was never picked, nothing ever happened. And somehow I got into Abraham. So I started listening to audios of Abraham all of a sudden. I had the books, but for some reason they didn't appeal to me. Years before, I bought them and had DVDs, whatever, but I didn't get into them. But this time I was just, doing the YouTube videos, and I start feeling kind of better and better. I start kind of, let me just focus on better things. And
again, mastering your thoughts, holding the reins of your life.
My emotions, and I start feeling like much, much better. And at some point I felt like maybe, because people tell you after this amount of time, you should be able to start rebuilding your life. So I thought, I'll just maybe start dating, and I start kind of at least trying to speak to people and see, how things were, blah, blah, blah. And then I went out on a date, and we had, whatever time. Obviously, I was comparing each individual to my husband, which wasn't very fair. But I was trying kind of to, okay, let's go with the flow. Let's go out. And after, I was walking this guy back to the train station because he was from another city. And all of a sudden, I just tripped on the street, and it was quite full of people, and I think kind of someone just kind of brushed against me. I kind of fell, and all of a sudden I was in all this pain, you know, and someone helped me that was a nurse, and they called an ambulance quite quickly. I couldn't stand. There was like a horrible pain, and I just couldn't understand what was going on. I just told this guy, you go home, I'll just sort myself out, don't worry. When I was in the E&E, they told me I had fractured my leg, and I thought like, wow. And fortunately, they said, okay, but don't worry, we can get you into surgery tomorrow, which was a Sunday. And I thought, well, great. So of course, after that, it became like, okay, when am I going to be okay? And the doctors couldn't tell me how long would it take me. Obviously, they sent me on leave, on sick leave, for at least 8 weeks, and I was like, really, I need to do work. You know, I was kind of like going and doing and trying to do things, and all of a sudden I was again stuck in my house, but this time with crutches, similar to what my husband kind of had. You know, he was like, he had problems with his mobility for this cancer, and yeah, so I was like, okay, how much do I need to exercise? How much physio? Well, again, like, how much I need to do to
yeah,
get
quickly. Give me a quick fix.
So I don't know, the doctors told me like several things, and at some point I was speaking to the lady who used to be my therapist, and I was telling her about these things, and she told me, you know, you don't have to accept what the doctors tell you. You know, you can decide when you get well. And I'm like, really? What are you talking about? And she said, oh yeah, this book about You Are the Placebo. And I thought, yeah, by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I thought, okay. So she got my attention, and because obviously I believed everything she did for me, everything she recommended obviously was really good at the time. So I thought, yeah, I'll try that. And all of a sudden I bought the meditation. So I was doing the meditation, and immediately I thought, oh my God, this is very strong stuff. I mean, I had done meditation, like I told you, since the 90s. And I thought, my God, this is quite profound. I don't know. I mean, it took me a long time to kind of get used to the meditation. So I did them, and I was kind of committed. And my sister was telling me, oh, great, I've been telling you for years about Dr. Joe Dispenza, and you never listened to me.
You weren't ready back then.
She said, wouldn't it be amazing if we could go to a workshop? And I'm like, what? Why do I want to go for a workshop? You know, why? And I still wasn't like getting it. So after, I don't know how many books of Dr. Joe I listened to, because I had them as audiobooks, I just thought, yeah, I need to go to this thing. I need to go to his workshops, whatever. And all of a sudden I realized there was one in Brighton, you know, here in England. I thought, wow, that's amazing, you know, and managed to get in. By this time, obviously, I had recovered, you know, from the fracture and everything, you know, I mean, pretty much. I still had a bit of pain at the time, and soreness and things. And I remember when I went to Dr. Joe's event, after the event, I went for an interview. By the way, I had been made redundant again. And I was like thinking, okay, maybe my life is about to change. That's kind of when I start reading about the unknown, when you start kind of working with, you know, moving your energy, moving your thoughts, etc. You know, there might be a short period of chaos, you know, before, you know, probably you get into, you go into this river of change until kind of you get to the other side. So I thought, you know, I wasn't very happy there. You know, I had been kind of triggered by a lot of negative emotions on that place. But, you know, you know, they made me redundant, and actually they gave me enough money to survive until I got, you know, the next job. So so I went to this interview, and I noticed when I stepped out of the car that it didn't hurt. You know, kind of, I had been like, oh, like a little sore, and I noticed it didn't hurt. So it was like from a week to the other one. And then I I had been taking these the antidepressants for 4 years. I forgot to take them with me when I went to Brighton. I thought it would be a good idea to stop taking them, but not like that. And normally when I stop taking the medication, you know, if I forgot it like 2, 3, or 4 days, I would feel crap, you know, totally ill. And I didn't. So I thought, you know, I'll just continue like that without the medication. I also stopped smoking, kind of, you know, in this period of, you know, when I started reading the book until kind of I went to his workshop. I actually stopped smoking after 30 years of smoking.
Wow.
So yeah, these things happen, and I thought they were, and I didn't want to quit smoking. I want to be very clear on that. I actually did it as a, you know, when I was recovering from the leg, where we were doing a campaign about vaping. And they just asked me, Anna, can you just participate because we don't have enough women? Because we were going to do a campaign, a blog post, like how a heavy smoker is going into, you know, vaping. And I started doing the vaping, and actually I liked it. I liked that it didn't smell so bad. I never liked the smell of the smoking. And, you know, later on, I was going to have a surgery, so they asked me to quit, to stop smoking for 6 weeks. So I thought I'm just going to be reducing the amount of nicotine on these liquids until it went to 0. And then after the 6 weeks, you know, I didn't have any like withdrawal symptoms. You know, I had done this before, you know, stop smoking for a surgery, and it felt horrible. You know, I had withdrawal. I was, you know, cold sweats. You know, when I did this before, so I didn't have any side effects. And you know, I thought, you know, I just don't feel like smoking anymore. And I was vaping for a little bit with 0 nicotine. And one day I just thought, like, well, it doesn't have nicotine. I just don't feel like doing it. So yeah, I mean, so obviously,
it's amazing how by changing your behavior in one spot, that permeated into other behaviors as well without you even thinking about it. For the same reason, I suppose that something that seems trivial, like, oh, I'm scared of dogs, for instance, that might be blocking us from getting somewhere in other parts of our lives, and we're not even aware of that.
Yeah.
That's very powerful.
Yeah, so obviously, I think from that moment of the, you know, probably from breaking my leg, and then I broke my hand. God. So I thought, you know, I told my body, look, body, you don't need to give me any messages. You know, I get it. Okay. I used to be a very inflexible person, and probably the only way of getting my attention would be like through something drastic.
Yes, breaking bones, because that's the most unflexible part of our bodies.
Exactly. So, you know, I used to be someone that once things were working well, I didn't want anything to change. So I would say, like, don't change anything. I like it like that. I like it. I like it. So every time something changed, I would be like, oh, no, I like it the way it was. So after being with Dr. Joe and his workshops, where everything became like a constant change, I thought, you know what, I just need to live with this and accept that and be comfortable with not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. And, you know, and at the moment I'm in a much happier place. I think once I surrender or kind of let go of all the things that I thought were my identity. Like, I thought I was my job. I thought I was my career. I thought I was a wife. I thought I was a widow. I thought I was blah, blah.
And nothing was true.
Nothing was true. So
whatever you put after I am was limiting you, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, today, obviously with, you know, the help of all these teachers like Dr. Joe or Abraham or you know, all these people, I know, now when I look back at my life, that I have always been a powerful creator. I thought, how many times I have reinvented myself from no job, and then, okay, because every time that I changed these jobs, I don't think I stayed on the same industry. Obviously, I stayed in roughly a creative, marketing, whatever area. But in many occasions, I had to basically relearn other things or
Start from
modify.
scratch.
Yes, stretch and do other things. And I think also about my job or my work, something that I always found amazing, similar to when I loved studying. I always loved what I did, whatever was my job, I always loved it. So my sisters will go, are you crazy? We can't wait until it's 5 o'clock to go home. We hate working. We hate job. My youngest sister always says, my wish is to win the lottery or a millionaire to come and marry me so I don't have to work. And I'm like, are you mad? I love working, whatever I'm doing, but it's like, how, what, even if you win the lottery, what would you do, with your time? So I also realized that was true for my husband. My husband said, like, for me, just going to work is just a 9 to 5 thing, something that gives me money. But I have always been passionate about whatever I do, which I guess has been, it's been a blessing, because I always feel, I always felt very fulfilled by working or by doing whatever I was doing. So,
yeah, but that's also self-fulfilling prophecy. I always loved what I do. I always love and enjoy what I'm doing. And then whatever you do, you enjoy because you're telling that to yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 with the positive spin. With a positive spin. You expect the best from your job, so you get the best from your job. Isn't it?
Yes. Let me see if I...
Yeah.
Sorry, I was kind of having an issue here with this. Yeah, okay. So do you have any other questions? I feel very blessed. I used to blame others. Yeah, of course, like economy, probably that I wasn't born in the right side of society or whatever. But I was never kind of too, how can I say, bitter about it. I know there were people that probably hung out with these people that maybe had a lot of money or big houses or whatever, and would be like resentful. And I don't think I was ever like that. When I was friends with these people, I would just appreciate, very nice things they had, and sometimes at the fact that they were not too big-headed about it, because some people would be like just talking about their money or their possessions or whatever, and other people like behave just in a very natural way, like they weren't as wealthy or whatever. And the funny thing is, like, similar to my dad, when my husband and I sometimes used to be watching, TV shows where you have these amazing houses of the rich and famous or the celebrities or whatever, or anything, or won the lottery, whatever. So you would be watching these people, in these amazing places, amazing houses. And one day my husband told me, you shouldn't be watching these, because it's going to make you kind of want the things that you will never be able to have. And I was just like, what? The fact that he said that, it's not that I love to have those things, but if I have them or not is not a problem. But it was the way he said it, like, how come you cannot dream about it? If I hadn't dreamed about many things, probably I wouldn't be where I am now.
Exactly. It's about the mental images, because we can make them true. And Abraham Hicks, it's all about that. It's the signal that you're putting out there is what is going to become attracted to us.
Yeah.
And why not? But I think I completely agree with what you say. I see the image, but I let it go. I see these houses, I love them, but if I get them, fine. If I don't get them, fine too. I do the same. I watch documentaries about these wonderful houses. But like you, if I don't get them, I don't feel frustrated at all. But if the time comes, I'll be ready. I'll be ready for the kind of house that I want. I'm just being ready and enjoying it. So I do completely agree with you. And I have a file in my computer with photographs of houses that I love.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's about not getting attached to it, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and similar like in the past, I see now, you know, friends that would love to be in a relationship and how sad they feel, and I see myself how I was, you know, today, you know, I love to have a relationship, but if I don't have any other one, I was very blessed with the one I had. I think something that my husband taught me in a way that probably I didn't realize at the moment was like every time that I was saying something that probably was not too nice to myself, he always said, Anna, don't talk like that. Don't put yourself down. Why are you doing that? You know, why are you talking about yourself in a negative way? And it's funny because the moment I decided to kind of have this life with him, I always kind of had this thing that I thought about, like this emptiness in my heart. You know, I felt like a big, not like the Joe Dispenza's void, but like a big like hole kind of thing. And the moment I was with him, that space kind of got full, and also obviously in the very early times I was jealous. I was a bit you know, not trusting him, and at some point he said, like, you know, you have a choice, you know, I love you, you know, and you know, and I'm not doing kind of anything. And I, at some point kind of I drop it and say, okay, yeah, true. And I really stopped being a jealous woman. I stopped, you know, and you know, I feel my heart full. So I know that, you know, whomever comes, if anybody comes, will have to have this full heart as well. So it's not going to be expecting me to complete or to fill any gaps, but just
to be
share.
whole. Yeah, each one of you being whole and not
Yeah.
rather than dragging energy out of each other. That makes so much
Yeah.
sense. It has to do with self-worth, doesn't it? And confidence. That we have everything inside ourselves and we just need to fill it up with our own selves rather than with the things that other people put inside. If other people put inside their thoughts and beliefs and ways of being, then there's no space for us to be who we are.
Mm.
So as you said, get the crap out of the room, fill it up with ourselves, and that's beautiful. Whatever it is, even if it's something that we don't like, our shadow, yes, or whatever. I'm jealous of you because you're thinner or you're prettier. Yeah, okay. I wonder why, but I can turn that around. I can say, wow, you look so pretty. How do you do it? You're thinner than me. How do you do it? We can turn it around and and use it in our advantage as well. Yeah. Wow, beautiful, Anna. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Your heart is so wide open and you've shared so much love with us.
Thank you.
So much love. Thank you so much. If people want to get in touch with you further, moving forward,
they can do through you. They can do through
me. Like, okay, fantastic. So just contact me and that's it. And remember, Anna could do it. Anna's still doing it. You can do it too. And if you have other empowering stories, let us know and you can share them here and add value to our community of our beautiful women out there and men as well. Whoever wants to come is very welcome. Thank you, and I love you.
Thank you. Love you too.